Hello, everybody, and welcome in to episode 58 of the Dorton and Doetkott Debate Podcast. I'm Lucas Dorton. Nick Doetkott is here again. And, folks, we're going to have to start giving him a membership for how often he comes on the show. Caleb Sipe is here once again, folks. This year it is again to talk about the 2021 NFL Draft. So we're going to be doing the same thing that we did last year, which was the mock draft, and we'll be doing it again this time. So we'll be going pick by pick. This time we will be splitting it up into two parts, though. So we'll do the first 16 picks, and then we'll have the next 16 picks, so you can break it up a little bit and don't have to watch 7 hours worth of draft coverage all in one sitting. So, without further ado, Caleb, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty good. Ready to talk some mock draft.
I believe last year you didn't have the beard. I don't think the beard was on the show last year for the podcast.
No, I don't remember why, but it was not.
The beard was gone. You had the wine. I remember it was a nice, very chill environment, and very distinguished. But anyway,
I got some aloe vera juice this year with some lychee in it.
Bone apple tea. I like it. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to get right into things here with the first pick in the 2021 NFL Draft. Caleb Sipe, Jacksonville Jaguars are going with...
Let me find my notes.
Yeah.
Cardale Jones, quarterback.
I didn't realize he was entering back into the draft.
Yep.
Anthony Bennett.
No, I think this one's obvious. Trevor Lawrence.
For
a little bit, people were like, "Oh, well, Justin Fields played for Ohio State," but then they forget that Urban Meyer did not recruit Justin Fields in college. Even though he was at Ohio State didn't offer him until he was in the transfer portal. So there's no connection there. Just because he played for the same team that Meyer coached for before he got there doesn't mean much. Trevor Lawrence, I think he's probably the most pro-ready quarterback we've seen since Andrew Luck, who was the most pro-ready quarterback we've seen since Peyton Manning. So,
yeah,
I think Lawrence is polished. His game is polished. He knows what he's doing. And Jacksonville would be doing too much if they try to go with anybody else. Like, it's a no-brainer pick. Just do it.
Now, I know a lot of times you don't hear a can't miss prospect too often, just because there's a lot of risks. I mean, you never know what can happen. But Nick, do you think Trevor Lawrence is probably the closest thing to a can't miss prospect that we're gonna see in a while?
As far as quarterbacks go, yes. I mean, I think there's been better prospects. There might even be one in this.
And I should have specified as far as quarterback.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Caleb, what do you think?
Oh yeah, as soon as you made that quarterback specification, I'd agree. Yeah. I was sitting here thinking, wait a minute, Penei Sewell was in the same draft class as Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, I definitely should have clarified a little bit there. Trevor Lawrence, so for quarterbacks as far as that goes. Yeah, I mean, there's not much time that we really have to spend talking about this. I mean, there's nothing that we're going to tell you that you probably already haven't heard before. I mean, the guy's one of the best QB prospects we've seen in a while. So hopefully, and that's another thing too. A lot of people, aren't quite sure how he's going to be coming in. Well, you're going to Jacksonville. You're not on Clemson anymore. So he probably will have struggles at some point. That's an important thing to remember. But nonetheless, Jacksonville's picking Trevor Lawrence at 1. Number 2, the New York Jets are on the clock. Nick, I'll start with you on this one. Who do you have the Jets taking?
Well, I'm just pretty much going with what we've all been seeing for months now, and I think the general consensus is they're obviously taking quarterback, and I think the general consensus is they're going with Zach Wilson out of BYU. They obviously can't have Lawrence because the Jags are going to get him, so they have their pick between Wilson, Jones, Lance, Fields, and by the sounds of it, Wilson's their guy. I'm not going to tell you why he is over the others. I'm just going with what we've all been hearing. So, Zach Wilson.
Caleb, are you pretty certain that Zach Wilson will go number 2 to the Jets?
I feel like he will, even though I'm not sold on him.
Yeah.
Watching his tape, he disappeared in some of the biggest games that BYU played. 2019, they lost 30-12 to Utah. He had 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. 2019, they lost 45-19 to Washington. He had a touchdown, an interception, and lost 14 yards on the ground. And then that same season, he ended it. His 2 games were against Hawaii and San Diego State. 0 touchdowns, 4 interceptions.
Oh, wow.
And
why do they want this guy?
This year, they played Coastal Carolina. That was a pretty big game.
Yeah.
He struggled. He only had 1 touchdown and 1 interception. That's the biggest game of your season right there. You got to step up and make big plays. In Coastal Carolina, they were a great Cinderella story, and they were a good team, but they're not. If you're the number 2 quarterback in the draft, you shouldn't be struggling that bad against Coastal Carolina. But other than that, even in that game against Coastal Carolina, he showed he does have some incredible arm talent, and he does have some solid mobility. It's just he played for BYU. They don't always have the strongest of schedules, and then he struggled in some of their biggest and against Hawaii.
Yeah. A couple stats here for Zach Wilson. I saw something that, obviously, you mentioned some of his not great, games, but he does, for the most part, he doesn't turn the ball over too much, and 1.2% of the plays deemed turnover worthy for that. So, take what you will with that. You kind of already mentioned an effortless thrower, kind of a really compact motion that can really sling it down the field. Another knock on him, too, is something that I've seen is that when he gets pressured at times, he kind of gets flustered, doesn't really know what to do. PFF, when there was no pressure and the pocket was, clean, it was 96.5 is what they graded him. I'm not sure out of what, but, and then as far as when he was pressured, it was brought all the way down to 74.1. Now, obviously, you have a clean pocket. Most any quarterback is going to be able to make the plays versus not having a clean pocket. But sometimes what a lot of people like to see is how can you do off scripted and how can you make plays when, the pocket collapses on you. And that kind of has been a knock on him that he hasn't quite been able to do that. But anyways, yeah, I'm with you, Caleb, on this one too. I'm not entirely sure. BYU is, typically not a not a powerhouse school that people talk about as far as a football team goes. Would you, maybe as part of the reason why the Jets are going with Wilson at 2 is because, he has a potential high ceiling. I think, I don't know. That's about the only thing that I could see as to why he's rated so high.
I think the only other way I could see them going at number 2 would be Justin Fields.
Sure.
And Fields, I think, would be, I don't know. I'll talk more on Fields in a few picks, but Fields, I think Fields is going to be better right away. But yeah, I mean, Zach Wilson, he's not an Ohio State quarterback, so he has that going for him. He went to the same school as Steve Young, so that helps.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, he's got a high ceiling. There's just a lot of question marks just based off of the strength of his schedule.
Sure. Yeah, that'll be interesting to see here. So with the third up, Nicolette, did you have something to say there?
Yeah, off topic, but to give you the reason why I don't know if you've seen the reaction I was just making, but I had the Twins up in the background.
Oh.
They had back-to-back errors to lose the game after being up by 2. Luis Ariz literally threw it 5 feet over the first baseman's head.
That's why I've got my Wild polo on today, not a Twins polo.
That's 11.
I support winning teams.
Dude, that was bad. That was. Oh God. Yeah.
Well, anyway,
let's just forget about the Twins. And, Third pick. All right, cool.
Third pick, San Francisco 49ers. Now, this is where it gets interesting. I think everyone has, the general consensus is that Lawrence is going to go 1. Zach Wilson, more than likely, is going to go number 2. Now, the third pick was San Francisco. Remember, folks, this used to be, initially Houston's pick, and then Laramie Tunsil trade with Miami. It was Miami's pick, and then a couple weeks ago, Miami did some trades to move around in the draft. So now it is the 49ers pick at number 3 here. Now, this is interesting. So, Nick, I'll start with you on this one. Who do you have the 49ers take? First off, they're more than likely going to be getting a quarterback. I can't imagine they wouldn't. It's just a matter of which one do you think they'll be getting.
And I don't think anybody knows. I've seen Mac Jones. I've seen Trey Lance. I've seen Justin Fields. But, Shanahan had Ryan, and, he wanted Cousins really bad. And, I'd say the quarterback amongst those 3 that I just mentioned that are most similar to those 2 is Mac Jones. So I'm predicting Mac Jones. I know you're not very high on him. I think he's actually going to be all right, but it's not who we think is going to be best there. It's who we think they're going to take. And I have no idea, but if I had to guess and put money on it, I would say Mac Jones. Simply because of the comparisons he has towards the other quarterbacks Shanahan has had in the past. So, yeah, that's who I'm going with is Mac Jones.
Mac Jones. Caleb, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've all heard the same rumors that Mac Jones is their guy. He had a great 2020 season. Almost reminded me of Joe Burrow when he took over for one season, surrounded by NFL talent on the offensive line, the running backs, the wide receivers, the defense. And he was on a sack team, but he also threw 41 touchdowns to just 4 interceptions, completed over 77% of his passes, and threw for 4,500 yards. So, he put up numbers. I like him. I just don't know if this high is where he should be going. I remember probably back in November, I was thinking, okay, maybe the Patriots pick him in the middle of the draft. I thought that would, but I don't think, unless the Patriots trade up for him, and they're not going to trade up for 3 because the 49ers already traded there. I think, Mac Jones probably makes the most sense there.
I actually have San Francisco going with Justin Fields out of Ohio State. Now, personally, not kind of like Nick mentioned, I'm not a ginormous Mac Jones fan, and maybe that kind of plays into part why I didn't have him going 3. Realistically, do I think San Francisco will go Mac Jones? I think these last few days I've really been thinking that, and that is the route that they might go.
Would you rather they take Kyle Trask?
Oh, obviously. Kyle Trask
Lucas over here loves his Ohio State quarterbacks and still somehow thinks Dwayne Haskins is a good quarterback, even though he can't hold on to a job.
He's just not the best opportunities. It's not his fault.
Okay.
But anyways, Justin Fields, I have him going 3. I just think that he's got a strong build. He can move around well. Obviously, he can run around a little bit too. I really like this for the 49ers. I feel he's a guy that can come in and help them right away here. Shanahan and the 49ers are a team that's, in a win now mode. They're in a win now mode, and I think Justin Fields is a guy that can do that. Another thing too, the NFL is obviously been saying this for a number of years now, but it has been progressing towards a mobile quarterback league. And Justin Fields, although now not take a knock on his throwing game, he can throw the football. Obviously, that you're not going to get picked first round if you can't throw the football. He can throw the football. He can run around a lot too, and I think that would be.
I'm
great
sorry, where did your boy Tim Tebow get drafted?
Oh, he's first round.
Oh, okay. And what was his issue?
Well, he threw the football well.
Oh, okay.
He did. But anyways, Justin Fields at 3. Personally, I just think that makes the most sense for him. Like I said, I'm not entirely sold on Mac Jones. I don't know. That's my take though. But
hater.
Guess what? Well, Call me a hater. That's fine. Yeah, so we'll have to see what happens there. And right here, pick number 4. This is, I think this is where the draft begins. I really think this is where the draft begins. Atlanta they have a potential to dictate how this entire draft goes. I could potentially see a trade happening here. See them trading down, have another team trading up to try and get a quarterback like a Denver team or
New England.
Someone. Yeah, someone. I could potentially see them trading it, keeping it. As far as what they go, it's interesting. So, Caleb, I'll start with you here. What do you have at pick number 4? First off, do you think Atlanta keeps a pick?
I think I'd rather gamble on South Korean cricket than gamble on what they do with this pick.
Do they have cricket? Do they play cricket in South Korea?
Oh, I have no idea. They might.
I don't think so.
I have them going with Justin Fields here. I did my entire mock draft without any trades.
Sure.
Just because y'all are gonna roast me for my picks. Why have y'all roasting me for my trades too?
That's a good way to look at it.
So if they keep it, I think Justin Fields. It would be very hard to pass on Kyle Pitts here, though. But Matt Ryan has declined, and he's getting up there in age. So I think it would be smart to go ahead and take Justin Fields, who, for every reason Lucas just said, at pick number 3.
Nick, what do you think?
Well, it's pretty hard to predict I would say it's pretty hard to predict what Atlanta does, but then again, no, they normally go pass catcher. And I think they're going to do the same. I personally think they should draft Penei Sewell. This guy is one of the best offensive line prospects you've seen in a very long time. In a lot of drafts, he goes number 1 overall, but this draft, nobody's going number 1 overall except, or quarterbacks are going to be top 3 for sure. But I don't think they go that route because Atlanta never does what they should. I think they draft Kyle Pitts. Now, that's not a bad pick. Kyle Pitts might be the best player in this whole draft. He's the kind of guy who can, change an offense. He's a tight end who is already being compared to like really, really great tight ends, and he's never even suited up in an NFL game before. That's how good this guy is probably going to be. So, again, it's not a bad pick. I would take offensive lineman, but I think they're going to go Kyle Pitts. They love drafting their wide receivers. Now they're going to take a tight end, give Matt Ryan all he can possibly need to work with in his last years, and roll the dice and see what happens. So I have Pitts from Florida.
Yeah, I also have Kyle Pitts here as well for Atlanta at 4. I agree 100% with Nick. I personally don't think they should go a pass catcher. Now, it is not a bad pick. He's obviously going to be amazing. And, if he goes to the Falcons, that Falcons offense is going to be absolutely lethal. But, nonetheless, it'll be interesting to see what happens with that pick at 4. I do have Kyle Pitts going there, though. Could you see potentially, I know, Caleb, so you had them going Justin Fields here at 4.
Yeah.
If they don't decide to go quarterback at 4, could you see them maybe snagging like a Kyle Trask or someone like that in the second round at some point?
Yeah, if they don't take quarterback first round, you got to be looking at those prospects second and third, maybe even fourth round, because if you're going to build around, if you're going to give Matt Ryan one last chance to prove it, you got to have the backup plan ready. And if you could sit like a Kyle Trask, or even one name that I've seen rise for no apparent reason, I did not think he was going to have his name rise, Davis Mills from Stanford.
Really?
I've seen, this one was a little out there, but I think it was on ESPN. There was a mock draft that had the Patriots trading up into like the bottom of the first to draft him in the first round.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But I do think this is the year to take a quarterback, because I'm looking at next year's quarterback class.
Tanner Morgan.
Yeah, Tanner Morgan's a guy that, as of right now, you probably take him 4th or 5th round. But next year you got like Slovis from USC, Howell from UNC, Brock Purdy is a top 5 quarterback prospect, that's how bad next year's draft class is.
Mm.
Oh, and here they have Tanner Morgan at number 6.
Okay.
But yeah, next year, hell, they have Sean Clifford as the number 7 quarterback prospect for next year. That tells you how bad next year's class is. Penn State's even looking to replace him right now. Why? Yeah, take your quarterbacks this year because there's probably about 5 guys who could go first round. And then after that, there's a solid group of guys who will go in the mid rounds. So take your quarterback this year. Don't wait for next year. I mean, surely somebody will emerge next year, but
that's a
as
big
of right now, it looks
gamble.
bleak.
That's a
Yeah.
big gamble to take for sure. Yeah. I agree. Yeah, it'll be interesting. Like I said, pick number 4 with Atlanta here. They could go a number of different ways. If they keep the pick, trade the pick, what they do with the pick that they do pick. This is probably the toughest, like Caleb was saying, the toughest pick to make, maybe in the whole first round. But we'll have to see what happens there with Atlanta at 4. Cincinnati Bengals at number 5. I think we all know what the Bengals should do for this pick. Now, do we all think that is what the Bengals will do with this pick is the question. Now, it has come out, Joe Burrow has been advocating for them to draft Jamar Chase, who was his teammate at LSU, so they do have that, solid connection there. I think the smart choice is for them to pick Penei Sewell at number 5, the offensive tackle from Oregon, who Nick was talking about earlier, is one of the best offensive lineman prospects we've seen in quite some time. So, Nick, I will start with you on this one. What does Cincinnati do? Do they make the smart pick, or do they go with their heart instead of their head?
I think there's a fairly decent chance that they don't take Sewell, which would be completely and utterly just absolutely idiocracy if they don't, in my honest opinion. Joe Burrow literally just tore his ACL because he got sacked. If Sewell is there and he does not get drafted for the Bengals, I don't think I could longer cheer for that team if I were a Bengals fan. That is how awful it would be. I'm high on Sewell, obviously, yes, but they have to draft this guy. However, I will say they take him. Honestly, it's more so just for the sheer fact that they need to, and they're stupid if they don't. That's why I'm putting him in this spot. But I think there's about a 50-50 chance they don't take him. I did put Sewell, though. That is what I'm predicting. I'm not confident in it because I have that little confidence in general management in Cincinnati there. But we'll go with Sewell, and we'll see if they do the right thing.
Oh, man. That's just... It's sad that, like, this even has to be, like, a debate, that we are actually, like, having to talk about this is for a potential Sewell not being there. It's funny. It's funny. Caleb, what does Cincinnati do here?
They're a not good franchise. They are a shit franchise. They are going to draft Jamar Chase. They are going to make Joe Burrow happy, give him his wide receiver. However, I do think this is a fairly deep draft class on the offensive line, so I don't blame them. But it's also a very deep draft class at wide receiver. You could be taking like a Tylan Wallace or a Diami Brown in the second round.
Yeah.
Or you can take there's good off you could take it like a Dylan Radins from North Dakota in the second round for the offensive line. Or hell, even go third round, take Spencer Brown from Northern Iowa. It's deep at both positions. Sewell is so much more ahead of any other offensive tackle prospect than Chase is over any wide receiver prospect that you should.
I don't even think Chase
Sewell
is the number 1 wide receiver, in my honest opinion. I think Devontae Smith is the best wide receiver in the draft.
I think they're taking Chase just because of that connection with Joe Burrow.
I'm not saying I don't think that if they take wide receiver, they'll take Chase. I'm just saying, in my honest opinion, I would take Smith over Chase. I think Smith is going to be better.
We'll get to my number 1 wide receiver around later in the draft.
Nice little preview there. Yeah, No, like I said, I have them picking Penny Sewell. I'm gonna trust that for one time the Bengals can make a smart front office decision. Now they did well last year with the Joe Burrow pick until he blew out his knee. Now I'm hoping they can make it 2 drafts in a row that they make a good first round pick. Now I'm not at all confident that they will. I think Nick's right. I think it's a 50-50 chance. And like I said, the fact that we're even seriously discussing it being a 50-50 chance is unbelievable. But
now if Sewell goes 4 to the Falcons, which there's a chance, what route should they take?
I mean, I think they should still.
Stop calling me, people. God, I keep getting phone calls over here.
I think they should still try and look offensive line. I think they should still try and look offensive line, in my opinion. There is still decent offensive linemen out there. Like Caleb mentioned before, it's a fairly deep offensive line class. Penny Sewell is by far the number one guy as far as offensive lineman goes in this draft, and I think it's a pretty steep drop off from that. But you could still get a serviceable guy at 4. So Caleb, who, in your opinion, if Penny Sewell does go to Atlanta at 4, Sorry, folks, I don't know. If he goes to Atlanta at 4. What would you see them doing then? Do you think they go offensive line then? And if so,
the Bengals?
Who is your second? Yeah, the Bengals. Who is your second best offensive line prospect?
I still have them taking Jamar Chase.
Okay.
I mean, if they did go offensive line there and Sewell was gone, then I'd take Rashawn Slater from Northwestern, or maybe Christian Darrisaw from Virginia Tech. But I think Slater's the number 2 offensive tackle in this draft class. But I still have him going Chase.
Yeah.
You want to keep your quarterback happy.
It is, but sometimes you just got to look at it and would you rather have time to throw to your Boyds, your T. Higgins of the team, or would you rather have to rush a pass to Jamar Chase?
But the thing is, you just named 2 wide receiver number 2s.
I agree with you 100%. I definitely think that, they would have that connection, and Jamar Chase, wherever he goes, will be a number 1. And I have no doubt in my mind about that, wherever he goes. But would you rather have 2, pretty serviceable guys and have time to throw to them, or would you rather have to run for your life to try and get your ball to Jamar?
I'd rather have a bunch of wide receiver 2s than a wide receiver 1 if my offensive linemen are all offensive linemen 18s. That's how bad the Bengals' offensive line is.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what they do with this one. Hopefully they go with their head. They go with Penny Sewell, but I'm not going to hold my breath. Pick number 6, the Miami Dolphins have this pick here. Remember, folks, this was initially Philadelphia Eagles pick, and the Dolphins moved up and down with that. Wow, a few weeks ago with that pick. So, this is one, like I said, I don't have any trades predicted in my mock draft. I just have one suggested where it might happen. I've been hearing things the last couple of days that apparently a lot of teams have been calling Miami about the 6th pick. Now, what Miami has been doing these last few years as far as acquiring the draft picks, I have been all for it, and they'll be set for the next few years. But I think they need to keep this pick, and they need to pick someone here.
I think you should start it off as your team. So
I will start it off here with the pick 6, Miami Dolphins. I have them going Jamar Chase out of LSU. I think, in my opinion, I think he's the number one wide receiver in this class. And for the longest time, this was so hard because I have gone back and forth for a while now on who I think I want Miami to draft as far as wide receiver goes for that pick. For the longest time, it was Devontae Smith. And then I'm going to be honest with you, the size concerned me. The size concerned me a lot. And he just did a weigh-in for some appointment like a couple days ago where he was 6 feet tall and 166 pounds. Now, I get it. You know, he had that same body type at Alabama, and he won the Heisman with that body type. But college is a lot more of a finesse game, whereas the NFL, you need to have some power on you, and that's just how it is. Now, not all the time. You can succeed without having to be built big. We've seen it before, and it'll happen all the time. But I'm going to be honest, 166 pounds, 6 feet tall. That scares me. That scares me. So I have them going with Jamar Chase at 6.
You don't need to be big if cornerbacks aren't within 5 feet of you, boy.
Yeah, I guess if you put it that way, that's fair. Yeah, I don't know. I just had Jamar Chase. I think he's great footwork, really good upper body strength. He's quick too. 4.38 40 is what he ran for the combine. 50-50 balls. He's phenomenal at that. To me, he kind of reminds me of a past Miami Dolphins player we had before, in Jarvis Landry. You know, he's a guy that's going to be able to go in there and make the tough catches. And, you know, he's a tough guy that can dodge tackles and break out of things. And I think, you know, Jarvis Landry is a hard work team. Now, obviously, you know, we'll see what happens there. But I think Jamar Chase would be the best pick for Miami at 6. Caleb, I'll start with you here. What do you have Miami getting?
I have them taking someone even bigger than Jamar Chase.
Who's that?
The guy they should have taken and would have taken at number 3, but now suddenly he falls in their lap with an extra pick. Penei Sewell.
Yeah.
Protect Tua.
Yeah.
Like we've already mentioned a couple times, he's probably one of the best offensive lineman prospects we've seen since, I've seen some would say he's the best we've seen since Orlando Brown. Senior, not junior. Like that's
a
long
big
time.
that's a big comparison there for sure. I mean, that's a big one. Yeah. Yeah.
I think whoever ends up with Sewell should be really happy about it.
Absolutely. Yo, 100%. I mean, if Sewell is there at 6 and Miami decides to take him and doesn't get a wide receiver at 6, I know you're not going to hear any complaints from me. I'd be 100% okay with it.
A lot easier to find wide receivers than it is to find offensive linemen.
Yep, I agree. Nick, what do you think?
Like you said, I think Devontae Smith, if it were up to me, I would take him first. However, I agree with you. I think they take Jamar Chase. It's just kind of I think they go wide receiver, definitely. If Sewell's there, potentially, yeah, Sewell. But I have Pitts gone and Sewell gone. Thus, I'm almost confident. I'm almost 100% sure if those two are gone, they're going wide receiver. It's just which one. And it's kind of a crapshoot, and I'm just kind of, you know, guessing on Jamar Chase. It's really anyone's ball game. I don't think they'll go Waddle. I think it's between Chase and Smith. I'd go Smith. However, I think the general consensus, more people are high on Chase, and I feel they'll go Jamar Chase. Plus, Devontae Smith kind of, in a way, kind of slapped Tua in the face, you know, that one comment about how he'd rather have Jones or whatever. Not that really matters, but maybe, you know, so.
He did a little bit. That was, I'm not going to lie, that hurt. That hurt a little bit. But that's going to just fuel the fire for the Tua comeback season. But anyways, yeah, no, it'll be interesting. I think probably the only knock that I would have on Jamar Chase, I mean, I don't know if you call it a knock or not. He hasn't played since 2019, so obviously he's had a lot of time off. He didn't play last season. Like I said, I'm not really worried about that just because I would not think that he's going to lose all of his talent in a year span and is not going to be the same player. And you have a year off, a year free of injuries to really get your body healthy and ready to go for things. So I don't know. We'll have to see what happens there. Who would you guys comp Jamar Chase to if there's an NFL player? Who do you guys think you would comp him to? If there's anyone off the top of your head.
1 second.
So Jarvis Landry, is one that came to mind for me. I've seen some things about, maybe a little more of a faster and elusive version of Anquan Bolden. A.J. Brown is a name I've seen for him. I don't know. Player comps are always interesting, too.
I had that in my notes somewhere.
Yeah,
Sure.
I see NFL.com compared to Anquan Bolden and Steve Smith. But, kind of tough because he's 6'2", 208, so he's not huge, but he's not small either.
Right.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. But
Yeah, I'd almost say a little bit of Odell mixed with a little bit of Bolden.
Okay.
Yeah, Bolden seems to be a general consensus, but I don't know. Somebody good.
Someone good, yeah. So Detroit Lions pick number 7 here. This one is a tough one just because, honestly, they need a lot of help in a lot of different areas, and they could go probably just about anything here. I have them going wide receiver, though. Obviously, they lost Kenny Golladay in the offseason to the Giants. That's a big haul. Jared Goff is going to need someone to throw the ball to. And I think they definitely draft someone here, and this is where I think they have Devontae Smith. I have Detroit taking them at 8, or 7, sorry. Nick, what did you have here?
Well, Lucas, we only have one pick different thus far. I have Devontae Smith also. I'm pretty confident Detroit goes wide receiver. This team, what does this team need? Everything.
Yeah.
But they definitely need wide receiver, especially after losing Golladay. And I'm about as high on Golladay as anybody. I think that guy's a stud, and they just lost him. And at this point, I think Devontae Smith is probably going to be potentially the best player available at this point, too. So, yeah, I probably would go Devontae Smith here, and I also think that's what they will do. So, Devontae Smith.
I had a struggle here because I still have Kyle Pitts on my board.
Okay, yeah.
But they do have TJ Hawkinson already. And I know Pitts is better than Hawkinson, but you already Hawkinson's a very good tight end. Why take another better version of the one thing on your roster that's actually good? And their coach is a former tight end, though.
Yeah, it's Dan Campbell, baby.
So maybe. But I have them also taking Devonta Smith.
He's bite a knee off, or what did that guy say?
Bite some kneecaps off, take a chunk out. They'll punch us, and I'll bite another piece of their kneecap, and they'll punch us, and I'll bite a piece of their leg, and yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Smith fits in with that.
Yeah. I like that too. I think Devontae Smith definitely is the best player available at this point in the draft. So we'll have to see what they do here. That one is a very tough pick, though. Like we've all kind of mentioned, because they need help in a lot of different areas. But I think Devontae Smith right now will go there at 7. Now, pick number 8 as the Carolina Panthers. Now, this is a pick that I think I could potentially see a trade out of. I could see them trading down, maybe having another team that really wants to get a quarterback moving up to that 8th pick. We'll have to see what happens there. So I have them getting Rashawn Slater, the tackle out of Northwestern, with their pick there. I think obviously last year, every single pick that they made in the draft was defensive players, and their offense is pretty decent. And I think one thing that they could definitely need some help on is the offensive line. So I think they go Rashawn Slater here. That's Caleb. I'll start with you here. Who do you have Carolina picking here?
This is where I have Kyle Pitts coming off my board.
Okay.
I think
he'd be
perfect for them.
At this point, Smith and Chase are off my board. They don't need to. They're decent at wide receiver. Why not add possibly the best pass catcher, regardless of position, in this draft class? Kyle Pitts. I'd even go as far as to say he's the best non-QB skill player in this draft.
Yeah, that's fair.
So
I'd agree with you.
Give Sam Darnold a dude.
So I'm assuming Oh, sorry. I was going to say, I'm
No, go
assuming
ahead,
we
go
all
ahead.
probably think that Sam Darnold is probably going to be the number one here. Not doesn't really have anything to do with the draft, but I mean, yeah, I don't see you trading for a quarterback and then not starting him. I mean, they're going to
especially now
say
with
they
what
have a
they gave
battle in
up.
camp. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, Kyle Pitts, though, I really like that pick, too. I mean, you definitely can't go wrong with that. Especially, a younger defense, they haven't been around for too long. Like you mentioned, a lot of them have been kind of there the last season or so. So if you can really get a really solid offense and take a lot of the pressure off the defense, then that can help out big time. Nick, what do you have here at pick 8?
Yeah, if Kyle Pitts is left, I think they definitely have to take him. And if I'm a Panther fan and we get Pitts at 8, I'd be ecstatic. However, I have him off my board, as does Lucas. And I tell you what, Lucas, we're 7 for 8 so far. I have them taking Rashawn Slater also. I mean, all the main, Waddle's left, but I don't think they're going to go wide receiver. I don't think they're going to go quarterback. They just got Darnold. And, I mean, if they went defense, it would be, Micah Parsons maybe? And I just don't think there's any defenders good enough here for them. I don't even have a defender in my top 10. So, really, it comes down to, Rashawn Slater. And I think he's clearly the number 2 offensive lineman in this draft. So I think that's the direction they take.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. One of the only knocks on Rashawn Slater, he's only 6'3", and I've heard he kind of has short arms too. Now, obviously, if you're going to be picked in the top 10,
I don't think he'll have a sack all year though. So
yeah, and that's the thing. I think you'll let that.
Yeah, he did
fly.
not. I can promise you, he did not allow a single sack in 2020.
Yeah,
because he opted out.
Well, there you go.
Well, maybe it was his 2019 season then. I think Slater's the guy I heard didn't allow a sack an entire season. I could be wrong there. But yeah, he didn't allow a sack in 2020, see?
Yeah, you weren't wrong. Yeah, that's interesting. We'll have to see what Carolina decides what to do with that pick for sure. But anyways, moving on to pick number 9, the Denver Broncos. I could potentially see Denver trying to trade up with the team. Personally, I think they need to go quarterback. I'll get to my pick in a second here. Nick, I'll start with you. First off, could you see Denver potentially trying to trade up to try and get a quarterback?
Definitely.
And then at pick 9, what do you see them doing then? If they don't,
definitely could see them. I don't think they will trade up, but I definitely could see it. And obviously, Atlanta at 4, Miami at 6, and Detroit at 7 are probably going to receive phone calls. Yeah. But I don't think they trade up. I don't think they need to be that. Well, then again, no, they probably do need to be that desperate, but I don't think they will be that desperate to trade up. I do think they should draft quarterback. However, I didn't think they would. But most of the mock drafts I look at do in fact have them taking quarterback, which probably is a smart thing. I just figured, they just drafted Locke. They don't want to like backtrack on it. But hey, if you screw up, just admit it and go try again. And that's what most people think they're going to do. Go with the quarterback. And now it's just a matter of which one. I have Trey Lance and Justin Fields left for the top 2. And it's kind of just a guessing game there. I mean, it's hard to know what quarterback these teams really want. I mean, there's so many good quarterbacks in this draft, and I just think, they just drafted Drew Lock, and he went to Memphis? Missouri. And then Trevor Siemian was like Northwestern. Those aren't small schools, but they're not like, big time schools by any means. Well, Trey Lance goes to NDSU. So I think they might just go that route again, take the guy with the smallest school, go Trey Lance, and not draft the Ohio State quarterback. So I'm going Trey Lance.
Trey Lance. Caleb, what are you thinking?
I am going to make the perfect John Elway pick. With the number 9 pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Denver Broncos select Kyle Trask, quarterback out of Florida. No, they're not going to do. They should take Trey Lance here, but will they? Because as we've seen in the past with like Paxton Lynch, Drew Lock, Trevor Siemian, John Elway loves those tall white quarterbacks who somehow resemble himself. I don't think he realizes that he's not drafting himself. I think he's going to look at Trey Lance he's going to have some questions, as he should. I think he should go to a situation where he's not guaranteed the number one spot right away. And with that competition with Drew Lock, they can both make each other better. Trey Lance really only had one dominant year. He didn't throw for 3,000 yards in that year. He threw for 28 touchdowns, no interceptions, ran for 1,100 yards and 14 touchdowns. But then this past year, he played one game against the University of Central Arkansas, who, to their credit, they do have a corner who will likely get drafted in Rochelle. But he completed 50% of his passes for 149 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. And he had 30 passing attempts.
He doesn't throw many interceptions, though, right?
No, that was the first interception of his collegiate career.
Yeah, I thought so.
But he only completed 50% of his passes. Like I said with Zach Wilson, like, the strength of schedule is a concern. And the one team he played this year isn't that good, and he struggled against them. I think he's still probably going to go top 10. I wouldn't take him top 10, but I'm not an NFL GM, so that.
I mean, yeah, Carson Wentz did go to NDSU as well, and up until he got injured, he was, an MVP type quarterback. Whether that matters.
He had one MVP season.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, Trey Lance, he could be a good fit in Denver, and that competition with Drew Lock could make one or both of them better.
By the way, Trey Lance is from Marshall, Minnesota, and had no D1 offers. So, thanks Gophers for not pursuing him.
No Power 5 offers. I believe
no
he did
Power
have
5 offers. Yes.
MAC offer.
Yeah. Well, he has FCS. That's technically D1, but yes, no Power 5 offers.
Well, I mean, MAC is still FBS, but.
I mean, NDSU is FCS, right?
Yes, but he did.
Yeah.
I'm going to pull it up right now. I believe he did have offers to go to, like, the MAC.
Okay, that could be. But, yeah, definitely no Power 5.
Yeah, I also have Denver going Trey Lance here with the 9th pick. Yeah, it's interesting to me, and Caleb brought it up too here. At NDSU, you're not seeing the LSUs, the Alabamas, those big name teams. So, and the fact that he also, the 50% completion percentage too, and a not phenomenal teams you're going up against is certainly probably a little worrisome for sure. But some good things about him. He's big, 6'4", 225. One thing I've heard, he's got a pretty high IQ. Obviously, you mentioned, doesn't turn the ball over. And then he can move the chains a variety of ways too. He can move around pretty well on his feet as well. With that, now some of the negatives that you've kind of mentioned, obviously, NDSU, you're not playing against great talent. He's only 20 years old too, so he's young. He's really young.
Which could be a positive.
And it could be a positive too, depending on how you look at it. For sure.
The Lance is more so drafting for. Lance is drafting for like upside. Like he's right now, currently, he's definitely the most raw of all of them by far. But you're kind of drafting Lance on potential here.
Yeah.
And sorry to interrupt, but just one more thing. Like, so the year Baker went number 1, that was a year full of quarterbacks as well. And the guy who's right now is potentially the best quarterback in that draft is Josh Allen. Well, he was the small school quarterback in Wyoming who also did not have a very good completion percentage. He only completed 56% of his passes the last 2 seasons. Now, that's not 50, but it's not good. And right now, he's balling out in the NFL. So, again, Trey Lance is not Josh Allen. Trey Lance is not Carson Wentz. But the success those two had, I think, are a good sign for what potentially Trey Lance could do.
And I'm glad you brought up, Nick, the Josh Allen comparison there, because that's kind of who I had. I had Josh Allen, question mark. And
Allen's a runner too,
Right. And it wasn't so much of, certain things, but, they're both bigger builds. Both had a lot of question marks coming out of college. Both of them, I think a lot of people weren't ginormous fans of. Obviously, Josh Allen for, a big part of the season last year, he was an MVP frontrunner. I mean, he played well. So like you mentioned, you can have some of that success. But Yeah, so I have them going with Trey Lance at 9. But we'll have to see how
I
that
pulled
pick.
up his offers if you want to hear those.
Sure.
Yeah.
So he had offers from North Dakota State. What a surprise. Boise State,
Hmm.
Brown, Cornell,
So he's a
Northern
smart kid.
Illinois, South Dakota State, and Western Michigan.
Okay.
Oh, PJ Fleck, you. Okay, yeah.
Well,
So he did have FBS offers.
yeah.
Okay, so you're right. But yeah,
Minnesota did not offer, though.
He must be awfully smart. That's for sure two Ivy schools, you said.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Well, that's interesting there. But we'll have to see what Denver decides to do at 9. Dallas Cowboys have pick number 10 here. I mean, they went with CeeDee Lamb last year with their first round pick that they had. I think they should have gone defense. Personally, I mean, CeeDee Lamb's a great player, and I'm sure he'll be a great player for Dallas. But I think they should have gone defense. I think this year they do go defense. At least I hope they do, and that's what I'm predicting they'll do. I have them going corner, and I have them going with Patrick Surtain second there, the corner out of Alabama. I think as far as corners go, he's the number one, at least on my list, in my opinion there. So I think they go with Patrick Surtain the second. At least I think they should. Caleb, what do you think Dallas does here at the 10th pick?
I have them also going with a corner, the son of a former Dolphins and Chiefs corner, Patrick Surtain. I have them taking Patrick Surtain the second. He was the SEC Defensive Player of the Year and a unanimous All-American. His weakness, though, is slants. For some reason, he does struggle against slants, but his strengths are everything else.
Yeah.
Like, he's all around a
a
very
slant.
good
I mean,
corner.
that
The
thing-
only
that
thing he's struggled with is
Slant is
slants.
like unguardable. So you can't guard Michael Thomas?
Nope.
Yeah. Nick, pick 10. What do you have Dallas doing here?
Well, apparently this is another edition of Dorton and Duckett agree because pretty sure we have like 9 of the 10 right now. I also have Patrick Surtain the second. And I said I didn't have any defense in the top 10. I lied. Number 10 is my first defender. I could see them going O-lineman. You may be like, what? They've had a good O-lineman for a long time, but it's, dropped a little bit. It's still a good O-line, but they just love drafting O-line in the first round, which honestly more teams should do. So I could see them doing that. However, to be honest, I'm a little biased. I kind of want one to be left for the Vikings, so I didn't want to predict a lot of O-linemen. Not that I should be that way, but I think they could potentially go with a Slater if he's left or a Darrisaw. They could potentially go edge with a like Kwity Paye, but I think honestly they could go Parsons too. Like honestly, they could just say who do we think the best defender in this draft is and take them.
Yeah.
But I do think they go defensive back, and I also have Patrick Surtain the second, who is, I think, would we all agree is probably the best cornerback in this draft?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think overall, I think there's another corner that I have taken later that has higher upside.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have Surtain the second, which is my third Alabama player taken in the top 10.
Surtain too, Caleb. Obviously, you already mentioned it. His dad being in the NFL and having a lot of success, Pro Bowler with Miami in that backfield with him and Sam Madison, had a lot of success. So to have someone in your family who has been in the league and has had success, I mean, that's huge. That's huge to have to kind of show how to do things there. So Patrick Surtain the second is a Dallas Cowboy. Now moving on to pick number 11, the New York Giants, football Giants. This one's interesting too. I think they could go a couple different ways. Nick, I'll start with you though on this one. Who do you have the Giants taking at 11?
Hopefully somebody you don't. The Giants is difficult. I could also see them going O-lineman. There's for many, many years now they should have and they never do. But they could go wide receiver. They really, honestly, you could almost make an argument for darn near anyone here. The Giants aren't, bad, but they definitely could, use somebody in almost any position. However, I think they end up going with potentially the best defender in the draft. In Micah Parsons, the linebacker out of Penn State, a guy to be a leader of the defense and shore up the middle of the field. So I have them going Micah Parsons out of Penn State.
Caleb?
I have them. I mean, you kind of alluded to it with protecting Daniel Jones, taking an offensive lineman. I have them taking Rashawn Slater here. Some people, when Lucas snapped me this, I had to laugh. I saw it earlier too. Some people think Rashawn Slater's better than Penei Sewell.
Yeah, Colin Coward.
Yeah, some idiots. But yeah, I think Rashawn Slater, he might be one of the more versatile offensive linemen in this draft. I was reading that he can play every position on the offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've only seen him play at tackle, but I was reading some people think his best fit is as a center.
Really?
And
that's interesting.
I see him as their left tackle.
Even if that is, though, if you're A+ at center and A at tackle, I'll gladly put you at tackle instead. It's just far more important.
But the versatility is always a plus for him.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think Slater, protect Daniel Jones, give him some more time to throw to Kenny Galladay. I think that's a good fit there.
Yeah. I had the Giants going offensive line as well. Obviously, Slater and Sewell, I have both of them are off my board. So I think I have them going with Christian Darrisaw from Virginia Tech, offensive tackle there. I do think if Rashawn Slater is there at 11, though, I do think they go with him over him. But my mock draft, he's a Carolina Panther. So I have them going with Christian Darrisaw from Virginia Tech. Daniel Jones, biggest knock on him, he cannot hold on to the football to save his life. The man is running around with Vaseline on his hands when he has the football.
He cannot stay running for 70 yards at a time to get a touchdown either.
He can't do that either. So what will help him to hopefully not let go of the ball as much, and that is shoring up the offensive line so he doesn't get hit, so he doesn't fumble the ball as much as he does. So hopefully they cut down on that, but I think they definitely go offensive line as well here for the Giants. Pick number 12, folks, the Philadelphia Eagles here. Now, they had a chance to get probably the best wide receiver in the class last year. And, they did not make that pick. They went with somebody that was not Justin Jefferson.
Who did they take again?
Jalen Reagor.
Jalen Reagor,
yep. That's right.
But anyways, so Caleb, I will start with you at pick 12. Do you have Philadelphia making the right choice at 12 here?
I do believe so. Like you said, they could have had Justin. They took Jalen. I think they take Jalen again. I think Jalen Waddle here. His speed is what they need. He does have some injury concerns, which is why I don't have him as the number one receiver last year. We had a little bit of a debate in the podcast as to who would be the number one wide receiver. And I said because of Ruggs' speed, he would be the first one taken. Sure enough, I was right. I thought about doing the same with Waddle, but that injury concern, I think that's where he slides to being the third wide receiver taken. And I think he would be a good fit for Philadelphia. They get the wide receiver that they needed to draft last year, but they didn't. He's got speed. And honestly, when healthy, he was wide receiver number 1. Devonta Smith was wide receiver number 2. Maybe it's because Smith didn't get the opportunity. Maybe it's because Waddle was better. But I think the Eagles, if they make the right pick and take him, they got their wide receiver there.
So you think if Waddle would have been healthy this year, do you think he would have been the number 1 wide receiver off the board?
It's hard to say.
It is.
It truly is. I don't think Devonta Smith would have won the Heisman. Yeah. Because there would have been split touches between the two of them. Yeah.
It's interesting. Actually, you probably still wouldn't have because nobody liked Kyle Trask for whatever reason.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I got disrespected. Nick, pick 12, Philadelphia Eagles. Who do you have them going with?
This is probably one of the most obvious picks in the draft. Unless somehow Chase, Waddle, and Smith are all gone, Philly's going wide receiver. They still potentially would, even if they are gone. And I have Jalen Waddle left, so Jalen Waddle's the guy. I mean, he's clearly the best wide receiver of anybody I have left. They clearly need wide receiver more than potentially anybody in all of football. So, yeah, Jalen Waddle.
Yeah, that's a pretty easy pick. Obviously,
Watch them not take him. Watch them take Tutu Atwell.
Yeah.
You were Lucas. You were talking about how you don't like Smith's size because he's 166. Tutu Atwell has the I believe it was Atwell. Yeah, the wide receiver from Louisville. He has the opportunity to be the lightest player drafted in like modern draft history at 149 pounds.
Oh. Yeah, no thank you. No thank you. I'm fine.
There hasn't been like a kicker less than that?
Well, I mean, the kickers taken in the first round are like
Sebastian Janikowski.
Yeah.
Oh, first round pick. I thought you meant like anybody.
Yeah, okay. That'll be interesting. But yeah, Jalen Waddle, I mean, speed is his game. Adjusted the deep ball well. 11 of his 20 career touchdowns are over 50 yards as well, too. So definitely a big deep ball threat. The one knock, obviously coming off of an ankle injury, we didn't see him last year, except he played a few snaps in the national championship game, but I don't think really did anything with it.
Hurts played with Waddle too, right? So
yeah,
didn't even think of that.
That's a good point. We'll have to see there. But anyways, Jalen Waddle goes there at 12. Now the LA Chargers at pick 13. This one's an interesting one. I think they could go a few different routes here. Caleb, I'll start with you. What do you have the Chargers doing at 13?
I have them taking the guy that I would want the Vikings to take at 14. You got to protect Justin Herbert. They already have weapons. So I think they take Christian Darrisaw, the offensive tackle out of Virginia Tech. I think that's the smart pick. I think that's what they'll do. Yeah.
Yeah. I think they definitely go offensive line as well, too. Nick, what do you have them doing?
I think if they keep the pick, they go O-line. However, I think they're going to look to trade this pick as long as they can find a partner. And, I just want to do I wanted to predict at least one trade. So I'm predicting a trade here. The likelihood that this happens is very, very slim. But I want to kind of throw a curveball out there. I'm projecting they trade with Washington. And they're going to move up to 13 and jump the Patriots and draft Justin Fields out of Ohio State.
Okay.
They're going to double down on Ohio State quarterbacks because Lucas says Dwayne Haskins is so good, but Justin Fields is going to be better. They're going to go with Fitzmagic this year, but he's now obviously not going to be around for that long. Taylor Heineke looked really good in the playoffs, but I highly doubt they plan on him being the future. So I'm just going to go on a limb and say they trade up and take Justin Fields and see what they got with him.
Okay. Yeah, maybe that could happen there. That could happen. I have them going offensive line as well. I have them going with Walker Little, the offensive lineman from Stanford. Now, he's only played one game since 2019, so that obviously can be a little concern potentially, depending on how you look at it. But 6'7", things I've seen is he's really athletic for 6'7". He's got good flexibility as far as that goes. So they want to keep the franchise quarterback upright. I think they got to go offensive line here for that pick at 13. Minnesota Vikings, pick number 14. Nick, I'll start with you here on this one. Who do you have the Vikings taking at 14?
Well, I sure hope there's one of the top 3 or 4 linemen are left, I hope. Right now, currently, I have Darrisaw and Vera Tucker both left. I honestly, if both of them are left, I have no idea who they go with. No idea. I'm just going to go ahead and say they pick Elijah Vera Tucker, the O-lineman out of USC. I know Caleb says he wants Darrisaw, and I guess I'll ask, how do you feel about Vera Tucker, Caleb?
I like Vera Tucker, and not to spoil my pick, but I had them passing on him.
Well, okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Well, you can go. So
go ahead.
I don't really have much on Vera Tucker. It's between him and Darrisaw, I think, if both are left, and I'm just kind of rolling the die and say they go with Vera Tucker over Darisaw.
Caleb?
That's fair. I have the Vikings making probably the most surprising pick I've made in this draft. I have them going with Micah Parsons.
Really?
I think they're in a position where they do have some needs, such as offensive line help, and we do need a wide receiver number 3. I don't believe BB is a legitimate wide receiver number 3. And BC Johnson, while he's had his moments, he's not a wide receiver number 3. But you don't take a wide receiver number 3 at the 14th overall pick. And I think there is enough talent in this draft class on the offensive line. You can take one later, since I have my top 3 offensive tackles already off the board. Why not take possibly the best defender in the draft there? It's not a need, but teams that always are drafting for needs will always have needs. And I mean, the good teams don't have to draft for needs. They're drafting best player available. Vikings, they'll be returning some players from injury and from opting out. If you add Micah Parsons to that defense, ooh, I like that.
I thought about that. We do have Barr and Kendricks, but Barr's probably going to be gone after this year.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I think Parsons is a legitimate all-pro talent.
He's probably the best defender in the draft, right? I mean,
yeah. There are some
Oh.
character concerns from like 4 years ago, but a lot of those were dismissed because there was a formal investigation into it. We don't need to go into that because that is not safe for children's ears. But
I could care less about character issues, anyways. Randy Moss is the best pick in our franchise's history.
Yeah, Randy Moss didn't do what Micah Parsons was accused of doing, but
well, I don't know what he did. I'm just saying, as long as the guy's there, available to be drafted to me, I don't care what they did in the past. Hate on me if you want, but
from what I've read,
he's good.
He's a very mature young man, and there's no issue with his character right now.
I have the Vikings going offensive line as well. I am a fan of the Micah Parsons pick. I do like that. And if he's there, I think they strongly consider taking him. But I think offensive line is probably the pick that they should go. So I do have them going with Elijah Vera Tucker from USC, the old lineman there. One kind of.
We have the same pick again.
One, yeah. For
you
real.
Don't think they're scared of drafting Matt Khalil 2.0?
Yeah, I did think of that at USC, but I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with that one. I think offensive line is a pick that they should go. We saw a lot of times last year when towards the end of games when Kirk Cousins when he had about 0.42 seconds to throw the ball, I think helping out the offensive line there and giving him more time will be huge. So
if they don't go O-line, not that Micah Parsons is a bad pick because he's probably the best defender in the draft, but if they don't go O-line, they should probably take edge, in my opinion, because they were, I believe, last in the league in sacks last year. No, they didn't have Danielle Hunter, who, in my opinion, is one of the best defensive ends in all of football. But regardless, we're last in the league in sacks, and there's already been trade talks with Hunter, and he could be even better if you put somebody on the other end with him. So if they don't go O-line, I'd like to see them take Kwity Paye or like a Jalen Phillips or something, but we'll see. I'm hoping they take O-linemen.
Caleb, you had a little scoff there.
I'm not a fan of Kwity Paye. We'll get to that later. I have him getting taken in the first round.
He sacked the Gophers twice in week 1.
What was that, his entire sack production for the season?
Well, what's his name? Is it one of the big recruits didn't even have a sack this year, yet he's way up there. Oh, Jason Owe or Owe, however you say him, from Penn State. I don't think he even had a sack, yet he's like top 4 recruit for edge.
Well, we'll get to those reasons later here in the draft. But anyways, the next pick, New England Patriots at pick 15. Now, I could potentially see them, like we kind of mentioned, potentially trading up in the draft, maybe get a quarterback or someone that they want a lot here. But purpose this one, They're staying pat at 15. I have them going with Mac Jones from Alabama. I think when you look at
Do you
He's
have
still on your
Fields?
board?
what's that?
He's still on your board?
He is still on my
That
board.
was the only
Yeah.
one we had different in the top, like 10. Do you have Fields on your board yet?
I had Fields going to San Francisco.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, we had that one flopped.
Yep. So I have Mac Jones at 15 here. He's a guy that doesn't take unnecessary chances. If he has to throw the ball away, he has to throw the ball away. Doesn't take big sacks. Doesn't turn the ball over too much. Some negatives on him, though, is that sometimes he'll lock in on a target before a play happens, and he's kind of sticks with that target.
So he's me playing Madden.
Yeah.
Okay, but how much of that has to do with the fact that he had
Yeah,
Devonta
Devontae
Smith?
Well, that's still a part of it,
Like-
but you don't want to determine before the play happens.
Yeah, but if you're
hey, I'm going to
missing
go to
Jalen
this
Waddle-
guy, and if this guy isn't open, oh well.
If you're missing Waddle and Smith is your clear number one, getting enough targets to be a Heisman receiver, I can understand where it's easy to be like, okay, I know exactly who I'm throwing it to. Not that like Mechie and the others were bad at Alabama, but like Smith was, once Waddle went down, Smith was quite clearly, and the targets reflected that, Smith was quite clearly the wide receiver number 1 and 2.
And
Yeah.
3 and 4 and 5.
Yeah, I don't know. I just when you get my thing on that is when you get to the NFL, especially if he goes to a team like the New England Patriots, is he going to have that Devontae Smith type player? Absolutely not.
He's a
And
hater.
N'Keal Harry.
He's just a hater.
N'Keal
And-
Harry.
So in Alabama, yeah, that probably works fine, and I have no problem with it. But as far as going to the NFL, he's going to have to look at some reads and some progressions a little more deeply.
Nah,
with
Lucas
that.
had Trask wrote down and crossed him out.
I did not. But anyways, yeah. So I have the Patriots getting Mac Jones there. I think they definitely need quarterback. Cam Newton is certainly not going to be the guy anytime soon here, so they should definitely try and get the second coming of Tom Brady. Maybe we'll have to see. But anyways, that was who I have at 15. Caleb, who'd you have the Patriots going with?
They could trade up for quarterback. At this point, if they're sitting pat at 15, I don't think they're going quarterback because I have all of the best quarterbacks already off the board. I could see them taking like a Kyle Trask or a Davis Mills in the second round. But if they stay at 15, J.C. Horn from South Carolina, the son of former NFL wide receiver Joe Horn. He was a freshman All-SEC player in 2018 and second-team All-SEC in 2020.
I think
Yeah,
every
from
cornerback in this
November.
draft had a dad who played in the NFL.
Yeah,
Asante Samuel Jr.'s left too, yeah.
I don't see him going 15.
No,
That's
I'm
a
just
little-
saying, like,
Yeah.
the big cornerback recruits.
But anyways, Nick, who'd you have here at 15?
Quarterback, if one of the five's left, but I already had Washington jumping up and taking Fields. So I have them taking. I wasn't really sure about this one. If one of the 5 quarterbacks not left, I have no idea. But I'm just going to say they go linebacker, as they lost Van Noy. They're not super strong there. I mean, I think they have Hightower, right? He opted out last year, but they still have him. But I'm going with Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, the linebacker from Notre Dame. I think they go defense if quarterback's not available. I just don't see Belichick drafting a wide receiver in the first round, especially with the 3 probably gone at this point. There's not really any other skill positions you take here. They could maybe go edge rush, but I'm leaning linebacker. And with Parsons gone, I think the obvious number 2 is Owusu-Koramoah. So that's my pick.
Kyle Van Noy did return to the Patriots. So
He
Miami
did?
cut him, and then the Patriots signed him back.
I missed that.
Yep.
I guess
Van
I will
Noy
leave
is
my
back on the
pick,
pick.
but
But
I guess I'm not as confident now. I did not realize that.
yep. Yeah, that was about a few weeks ago that.
Oh, did not know that.
Well, the more you know. The more you know. So that's 15. 16 now we've got the Arizona Cardinals here. This one's an interesting pick. I think they could do a couple different things. I have them going corner. I have them going with J.C. Horn from South Carolina. I think as far as corners go, after Surtain, he's definitely the next best one out there. He plays to his size, super confident. Another thing, too, that's really big on him is that he's a really good blitzer, and he can get to the quarterback really well, too, which can be huge at times for sure. Only negatives is that at times he can get a bit handsy with it. Now, depending on how you look at that, whatever. That's some tunnel vision issues at times, too, is what I've seen in a lot of things about him. But I have them going with
using
JC.
that word.
Yeah. I have them going with J.C. Horn at 16.
But Lucas, they don't need defense because they have Isaiah Simmons who plays everything, right? Right, Caleb?
True.
Caleb, anybody watched last year's edition? Simmons might have been Isaiah Simmons might have been the Caleb's favorite player ever, I think. So, I don't think they need any.
I'd say he was my favorite defensive player in the 2020 draft class after Chase Young.
He is good.
Nick, who do you have here at 16?
No, they could use defense, definitely. However, I think they go wide receiver to give Kyler a true weapon to throw to. I mean, they got guys, but they don't really have a true number one. Besides, check that, and I sound like an idiot. They have Hopkins, but they don't have a true number two. Christian Kirk is good. He's not great, and he was a little inconsistent. I think they're going to get another guy to go with Hopkins on the other end. And I'm going with my boy, Rashad Bateman, wide receiver out of Minnesota. I hope he goes top half of the first round because I think he deserves it. And I personally, after those three, would take Rashad Bateman. I don't think you should probably take Bateman over those top three, but honestly, I have confidence he could potentially be better than them. I'm confident in Rashad Bateman and what this man can do, and I think the Cardinals take him at 16.
Caleb?
I also have the Cardinals going with a corner. I have them going with Caleb Farley, the cornerback out of Virginia Tech. Physically, he might be the number one corner in this draft, but he does have injury concerns. And after them letting Patrick Peterson go to the Minnesota Vikings, love that. They need a corner. They needed a corner when they did have Patrick Peterson, so now they need a corner even more bad. I think Caleb Farley, you take him there. I would have probably had them take J.C. Horn if I didn't have him go to the Patriots the pick before. But Caleb Farley, I think those three corners, Surtain, Horn, and Farley, those are all three. Each of them has their upsides, but they could all be interchangeable. Like I could see, I don't know, you could take Farley at number 10 going to the Cowboys. You could put him going to the Patriots. You could put him going to the Cardinals. But those three, if you get one of those three corners, you're pretty happy. You're pretty content with what you got. And I think Farley has the most upside of the three, but he also has the most questions of the three just because of injury history. So I think Cardinals get a good pick there with Caleb Farley.
Yeah. So that's the Cardinals pick at 16 here. And with that, folks, that is a wrap for the first half of the NFL draft. So get ready for part 2, because that's coming up here shortly, where we will go through picks 17 to 32, the second half of the draft, folks. But, so be on the lookout for that one. If you like this one, share, comment, retweet. Let us know what you would do here in these first 16 picks. But for episode 58, part 1, we are out.